All right, folks. Here's a funny one. James Comey and Letitia James prosecutions dismissed. That's right. This was something that a lot of people saw coming, and here it is. A federal judge on Monday tossed the Justice Department's cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, ruling the appointment of President Trump's handpicked prosecutor was invalid. The decision is a major rebuke of the retribution campaign against Trump's longtime enemies. Attorney General Pam Bondi said during a Monday briefing she will take all available legal action, including immediate appeal. Here she is.
All available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
It's just L after L after L.
Why I never.
Yeah. Senior U.S. District Judge Cameron McGowan Curry dismissed both cases without prejudice. I conclude that all actions flowing from Ms. Halligan's defective appointment, including securing and signing Ms. James's indictment, constitute unlawful exercises of executive power and must be set aside, she wrote in an order in James's case. She reached the same conclusion in Comey's case. And here is the press release that Letitia James released after hearing of this dismissal. I am heartened by today's victory and grateful for the prayers and support I have received from around the country. Comey, apparently unfamiliar with the concept of headroom when he makes videos, decided to release a video statement. We'll play some of it. It's kind of boring.
The court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. And I know they will serve again. I was very lucky that some of the best lawyers in America stepped forward to represent me. I hope they serve as an example to more and more lawyers, especially at some of the big firms, to participate in protecting our liberty, protecting the rule of law.
All right. Listening to all of that. Free Palestine. Carolyn Levitt comes out and is very defiant in the aftermath of these dismissals. She reaffirms her confidence in Lindsay Halligan, who was the last-minute appointee to the case, and insists that, Comey and James are dancing in the end zone prematurely here.
Expect will happen next, Caroline?
Well, what I will say is that everybody knows that James Comey lied to Congress. It's as clear as day. And this judge took an unprecedented action to throw these cases out to shield James Comey and Letitia James from accountability based on a technical ruling. And the administration disagrees with that technical ruling. We believe the attorney in this case, Lindsay Halligan, is not only extremely qualified for this position, but she was, in fact, legally appointed. And I know the Department of Justice will be appealing this in very short order. So maybe James Comey should pump the brakes on his victory lap.
All right, we'll be watching. We just showed a small piece of it. It goes on and on. Caroline, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Happy
Martha.
Thanksgiving. Good to see you.
All right. Yeah. I'm sure they're really shaking in their boots here. So the technicality in question, by the way, is they're saying that Comey lied to Congress when he said that he stood by previous testimony in which he may have lied to Congress. Now, that previous testimony was outside the statute of limitations to prosecute him for now because it's a 5-year window. So what the Trump administration tried to argue is that he lied when he said he stands by that testimony, which technically he didn't, because technically all he's saying is, I stand by that testimony. He's not reaffirming what could have been false testimony. He's very smart. He's the head of the FBI. He knows how to talk around these things. And it seems like he did talk around those things, which means, unfortunately, seems like he outfoxed the geniuses at the Trump DOJ. They didn't realize this until it was almost too late, which is part of why this case fell apart as quickly as it came together. But we'll get into that in just a moment.
They're not used to dealing with a head of the FBI that doesn't write children's books about the president.
Exactly. Like, you're not Right, you're not talking about a bug-eyed lunatic who writes children's books. You're talking about a guy who knows the system. He knows how to talk his way out of shit. You know, call me whatever you think of him. He's a pro. There's no disputing that. Trump's Justice Department had rushed to secure Comey's indictment ahead of the statute of limitations that has since passed. Comey pleaded not guilty to charges that he lied to Congress during a 2020 hearing and obstructed the proceeding. James was charged with bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. She also pleaded not guilty and has called the case baseless. So if you remember, this was how this case came to be. Donald Trump on September 20th tweets out, perhaps by accident, perhaps this was supposed to be a text message, or perhaps we were supposed to think this was supposed to be a text message. Could have been a double psyche for all we
That
know.
4D chess he's so famous for.
Right. Could have been 4D chess. Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why two of the worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him, and there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President DJT. And by now, he meant now, because at this point, the statute of limitations was due to expire in like less than a week. I think it was a 5-day window that he gave them. So they really had to throw this together as quickly as possible. So what happens? Trump ousted U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert, who had failed to bring a case against Comey or James. The administration then replaced Siebert with Lindsay Halligan, who had previously worked for Trump. She is now serving as the interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, despite having no prosecutorial experience. Lawyers for Comey and James argued that Halligan's appointment violated the Constitution's appointments clause and the U.S. code governing U.S. attorney vacancies. While the AG may choose an interim U.S. attorney to serve for 120 days, James's and Comey's attorneys argued that the window had already expired. They have said that that meant the district court, not Attorney General Pam Bondi, should have appointed an interim U.S. attorney. In other words, they had 120 days from taking office to appoint it themselves, and after which, I guess the law says they then defer to the district court. So Laura Ingraham has a guest on, David Schoen, who is a pro-Trump guy who says that this was an avoidable blunder and the DOJ knew it. This was avoidable. DOJ should have had someone in the room with Lindsay Halligan.
Procedural stuff here is in question, but you say this was avoidable. How so?
It was avoidable because, quite frankly, the Justice Department should have just put somebody in the room with Lindsay Halligan and would have taken away all of the arguments for dismissal, quite frankly, based on all the decisions around the country. I still don't think the decision is right, but it was avoidable in that sense. I give Lindsay Halligan great credit, and she showed great courage here. She looked at the facts and the evidence. She saw that there was a wrong committed, and she got an indictment. She was put in this position, and she should have had more support than she was given. But it's not a major setback for the Trump administration.
Well, it's not a major setback relative to the Epstein files. Like, luckily, there's a lot worse shit that's coming out where, no, this is not a major setback if you look at it that way. But he mentions there she got the indictment. She got the indictment.
This is a woman who got me through many lonely nights with her raw MAGA OnlyFans account.
Yeah, right, exactly.
She really blazed a trail there. 92% of women on OnlyFans are liberals. She really made a space for people like me.
Yes, real Jackie Robinson type there. But here's a question. Did she really get the indictment? Did she legitimately get the indictment, or was there fuckery about there as well? DOJ admits not all grand jury members saw the final version of the indictment against James Comey. This was just this month this came out. The Justice Department admitted Wednesday that not every member of the grand jury in former FBI Director James Comey's case saw the final version of the indictment, an error that could get the case thrown out. The rare admission of fault from the administration came toward the end of a hearing on Comey's arguments that the case should be dismissed because he's the victim of a selective and vindictive prosecution. U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff of the Eastern District of Virginia pressed prosecutor Tyler Lemons about concerns two other judges had raised about information that appeared to be missing from the transcripts of the grand jury proceedings. The concerns centered on two separate indictments that had been drafted, one that showed the grand jury had indicted Comey on 2 of 3 counts, and a second that had just the 2 counts, with the third missing. Lemons acknowledged that a grand jury coordinator had edited the first indictment, which was then signed by Lindsay Halligan, the acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. The second indictment is a document that was never shown to the entire grand jury, Nachmanoff asked. Yes, that is my understanding, Lemons responded. Nachmanoff then briefly questioned Halligan, a former personal lawyer to President Donald Trump with no prosecutorial experience. Yeah, see, this is a tough first job to give someone who's not used to doing this and giving them like less than a week to do it. Halligan, who presented the case to the grand jury on her own just days after she was appointed, said the foreperson and one other grand juror were with her when she presented the second indictment to a magistrate judge. The indictment was signed by the foreperson, but not reviewed by the entire grand jury, as the first one was, Halligan said. So, one day later, they realized, oh boy, kind of stepped in it. Justice Department reverses course, now says full grand jury review James Comey's indictment. Real crackerjack team they have on this, folks. As you can see, Maine puts it very well. Lindsay Halligan is a DEI hire. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah, she really was. She really was, as evidenced by this. This is the kind of work she was doing just a month before she was given this case. Just a month before she was told that she had to prosecute James Comey in a 5-day window or else the case would be thrown out. Here she is arguing that the Smithsonian Museum of what is it, African American Heritage? You've been to this museum, right?
Yes.
Yeah, here
Yes,
she
I
is
have.
arguing that it overemphasizes slavery.
Yeah, I don't think a museum about the history of African people in America should talk about that at all.
No, it should talk more about how we've moved on from slavery. There should be an entire Thomas Sowell wing of the Smithsonian Museum and African American Heritage. That's really what it should be. That's what it should be.
Yeah. Well, look, they want an African American museum by PragerU. Yeah, we talked about this before the show. As you know, if you've watched the show for a while, I'm very skeptical of anti-racism and that kind of thing. So when I went to it, I was almost expecting that. No, it was. If you have a problem with the way the history of race is presented in that museum, you're probably a racist. No normal person is going to go to a museum about the history of Black life in America and take offense that they have like whips on display that were actually used on slaves. Like, why would that bother you? It's not like that's all that's in there. There's an enormous display about music and culture. Like, what? Of course, that's in the museum.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Who do you believe, Russ or Lindsay Hannigan? Let's hear her make her case.
So, like just about every other country in the world, the United States has got a checkered past. I mean, what should we do in terms of our museum? Should we ignore that? Should that be massaged in a certain way to make it less significant? I mean, some of the worst episodes in our history were formative experiences that led us to where we are today, and those typically are reflected in museums.
I'm sorry, before she opens her mouth, she looks like the lighting stand-in on like Melrose Place. That's what she looks like. Okay,
It is very funny that you said that, because that I was exactly thinking that. I was thinking Aaron Spelling very famously had a theory of casting that you should basically want to fuck everybody. It seems honestly like that's a lot of how Trump picks people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he picks these people who look like they walked off the set of an Aaron Spelling show. Qualifications be damned.
Right.
Yep, I think the fact that we had our country was involved in slavery is awful. No one thinks otherwise. But what I saw when I was going through
Some
the
people
museums
think otherwise.
personally was
Yeah.
an overemphasis on slavery. And I think there should be more of an overemphasis on how far we've come since slavery. Our country is a country of progress, and it's the greatest country in the world. And we should.
Well, no, what's amazing about that is, like, let's say they build an Obama wing. You think these people are going to love that? Not that Obama was even African American. That's a different
Right.
different thing, right? Let's say Michelle Obama. Fuck it. Let's say a Jackie Robinson. Let's say they really emphasize the progress that Black people have made.
Oh,
since
and
then.
they
You
had
know, these
those
people would have a
things.
I'm sure they have them. But let's say it was all that. I'm sure they'd have a problem with that. They'd call that out too. Oh, this is divisive. This is woke. It needs to be defunded. It's DEI, right?
Should
Heads you
be
win,
able
tails
to take our
heads I win,
kids, our
tails you lose.
students through the Smithsonian and feel proud when we leave. There's a lot of history to our country, both positive and negative, but we need to keep moving forward. We can't just keep focusing on the negative. All it does is divide us, and we really need to unite the country and focus on all the positive as we approach America's 250th birthday.
All right, well, we'll keep watching this.
Right. That's a history museum. Like, you could still talk about uniting the country, which oddly enough you guys don't. But that's a history museum. That's an African American history museum.
Specifically.
I think to argue that is puts an overemphasis on slavery is kind of cartoonishly absurd. But that is the minds of the woman who Donald Trump gave 5 days to build a case against James Comey with no prosecutorial experience. So this is something that Russ has talked about in the past, about how a lot of times fascists are too stupid to really execute fascism the right way, and that if there's any hope this country has, it's that these people are just too incompetent, too cartoonishly like idiotic to actually execute the master plan. And that seems to be the case so far. I think James Comey's a terrible guy. That has fuck all to do with any of this. It was obviously a selective prosecution. I'm against selective prosecution, no matter which way it goes.
Sure.
A lot of the lawfare that the Democrats ran against Trump was a lot of why Trump was elected. Guess what he was elected to do? In part to stop the lawfare, not to just turn it on the other side. Like, if you're just going to turn it on the other side, that's a downward spiral. The only way that stops is when one side just actually decides that principle is more important than the partisan tit for tat. So I don't have any sympathy for the idea, well, we had to do this because you did it to us. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you actually care about the country, and you actually care about the rule of law, and you actually care about the Constitution and the concept of equal protection under the law, then you don't just chomp at the bit to stick it up the other person's ass because they did you wrong. The principle is more important. To adding to that, because I've said in the past, you know what? That's my opinion on this. I don't like weaponization of the government in any direction. If all you're going to do is go after the people who went after you, I think there are people who could let that go, even though I'm not for it. But you're obviously doing much more than that. This is an administration that can't, their favorite thing to do is harass people and try to prosecute people and arrest people and deport people. And this was a high-profile example, and it was their idiocy and incompetence that was their undoing. You put someone like that, who has never prosecuted a case before in their life, in charge of prosecuting the head of the FBI with less than a week to figure out how to do it. It's laughable, man. It's laughable. These people are a joke.
Hey, Pam, who's the best piece of ass in the department? I want the best piece of ass prosecuting this case. Oh yeah, she looks like a piece of ass. All right, why don't you put her in charge? No prosecutorial experience, no problem. It's a slam dunk case. All my sycophants tell me that.
He's
tell me
guilty
it's
as
a
hell.
slam dunk. He's guilty as hell. It's that became very clear to me when I went through Cash's book, Government Gangsters, right? So everyone, all the Cash fans, all the Cash true believers kept telling me, you got to read this. You got to read this. I read it. I listened to it on plane rides. Yeah, it was very clear that what his vision of draining the swamp was going after Democrats. He pretty much explicitly says that in the book. To him, the deep state are Democrats. So what did you think they were going to do, especially on the behest of cartoonishly corrupt and personally vindictive Donald Trump? that they were going to drain the swamp, or they were just going to weaponize the government to a level never seen before against Donald Trump's personal political enemies. And of course, it's the latter. You got an attorney general who doesn't understand that hate speech is constitutionally protected.
Right.
Who would literally say in an interview, that kind of hate speech is not protected speech. They're morons, because nobody with better prospects would work for a president like this. You got pretty decent odds you're going to end up in jail, that he's going to make you do things that are going to put you in jail. And even barring that are going to destroy your reputation for the rest of your life. You're never going to be professionally respected by your peers after working for this president.
Right, exactly.
So who's going to do that? People with nothing to lose.
Right.
People that, like, no president who's credible would make you the attorney general. Who would put Crazy Eyes Cash as the head of the FBI other than someone like Donald Trump? So when's that opportunity going to come for him again? Fuck it. I'll risk the prison time.
Right. Exactly. Because no one else would give them that shot. This is their one shot to, go for the gold. And because, the Republican Party at the time was just so in the pocket of Donald Trump, they weren't going to reject any of his nominees. So they all got through. I think today, if you put a lot of these people through the same nominating process, a lot of them wouldn't make it through.
Right.
Because Trump's cachet has really kind of crumbled. Right. But at the time, he had what do they call it? The bully pulpit. He was able to whip the votes, as they say, and he did.
I don't know. I'm starting to rethink that. I don't know if we should have a guy who sucks cum with a straw out of asses in charge of Health and Human Services. That seems like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, exactly.
Please clap.